Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Parent Cafe. My name is Allie.
And I'm Sarah.
And we're joined tonight by Andy. Hi, Andy. Welcome.
Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hello.
Andy is a local speech and language pathologist. So she's going to give a little intro so we can learn a little bit about her and what she does.
Yeah, so I am Ande Hinchey. I am a speech language pathologist that works for the Grand Yellowhead School Division. I've been with them for about 7 years now, and I've got 2 daughters of my own. One is almost 5 and one is 18 months old. So yeah, I've got my hands full.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm from Edson. I grew up here, went away for school and then came back. So
Nice. That's
awesome. Not born, but raised here. Yeah.
So obviously we're going to talk about speech and language tonight.
That's what this episode's about.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Surprise.
So there's no surprise test or anything like that you won't know anything about, but we do have some questions, so we'll just get rolling with those. First, maybe Sarah, do you want to pick the questions that you got?
Sure. This one actually I really like because I practiced it and tried it out with my daughter is baby sign language. So I kind of want to know like your thoughts on it. If they choose to do it, how could they do it properly? Like what? Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, so baby sign language it's great. It's a great tool to use before your kids are able to actually say words, because using their hands, your hands are actually easier to control than like your tongue and your lips and your mouth. That coordination is just a little bit easier with your hands. So yeah, we definitely say to do baby sign language. You can do it right from birth, really. Both my girls, I started off with like milk, because I nursed both of them. It was an easy one that I did it all the time. So you start off with really basic stuff, right? Same as the words that you're saying to your baby are going to be more basic stuff. So you start off with more basic signs. So like I said, things like milk or like, tired or, that kind of stuff. Mommy. Eat by the time they're 6 months old, when they're starting to get real foods, you can do eat. Yeah, so I definitely start off really early. Don't expect them to be able to do it really early. It's the same as talking. So we talk to them when they're brand new and they're not talking back yet, right?
Yeah, so when do you start sign language, like right away?
Yeah, I started, well, I would say with my first one, I started a little bit later, like probably 1 or 2 months. With my second one, I started right off the bat. And then once they start eating like solid foods, you can start doing more fun signs, right? So you can do signs for like Cheerios or toast or whatever it is that you're giving them, right? So one of the resources that I recommend to parents lots is actually using like YouTube and just typing in whatever the word is that you want and like baby sign, and it'll give you just like a quick little one that you can learn. So that's the quickest, easiest way to learn some signs.
Yeah, I did it with Abby, and like I started her probably, I guess, too late. Well, not too late, because she definitely picks it up, still uses it.
There's no too early or too late.
No, so it was about like 5 or 6 months when I was introducing food. So it was like milk, more like stuff like that, so that she could communicate what she wanted. And like everyone who watched her was like, that was like the easiest thing. Like, thank you. Like I knew exactly what she wanted. So it's like not even just helpful for me, it's helpful for like other people too. So like they were super appreciative of it. And like she still is,
They won't know what she's saying, right? Because she's not saying anything yet, right? Yeah,
right.
Or not
and
words that they would recognize.
Yeah, and she still uses it. Like she'll say milk now, but if we're not understanding her or doing it fast enough, she'll sign it. Like, come on, I need my milk.
Yeah.
I need milk.
Yeah. So like it did like progress into her words too.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't, it's not going to like delay or hinder their ability to pick up spoken language.
Because that is a big rumor.
Yeah. I've heard that as a worry, I guess. But yeah, definitely not. No, it's just that step to get them to be able to communicate with you a little bit earlier. which is amazing. And like you said, doing like more and all done, those ones are great. And then when they get a little bit older, like I want to say between like 10 and 13 months, you can start actually giving them choices once they're starting to recognize them. So you can ask them if they want like Cheerios or raisins, right? And you can give them the sign and they can choose what they want, and they're starting to communicate like their wants with you as well. So that's fun.
That's very cool.
So what are some like other tools that you would suggest to parents to use for learning language or communicating with their children, like even early on?
Yeah, so I was thinking lots about this question. There's so many.
What are your top ones?
Yeah, give us your favorite.
Yeah. So one thing that I recommend for parents to do right from birth again is do things like sing songs, like simple nursery rhymes, those things that, you know, we remember from when we were babies.
Right.
Definitely doing those kinds of things, repetitive language in that sense, and in that it's fun, right?
Right.
Looking at books, there is no age that's too young to start looking at books. There's so many things that you don't realize that you learned about books. Learning that it goes from a cover from the front to the back, you know, how you look at the pages from left to right. There's so many things, how to look at pictures, how to talk about pictures. There's so many things that you learned about books just by playing around with them. And both my girls are, their favorite thing ever, just to look at books. So it's great. They're quiet.
Cool. Yeah. I always like, Abby will be in her room quiet and I'm like, oh my God, what is she getting into? And she's sitting there like on the chair just reading a book. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is fine.
Reading it upside down, but reading it nonetheless. Yeah.
But whatever, flipping through it, trying to figure it out.
They're learning books. That's fine. Yeah.
They're like making up their own story as they're flipping through the pages. Like
exactly.
That's probably one of the like cutest things I've ever seen. Yeah.
Right.
It's heart melting.
Other than that, you know, really just being like a commentator of your life and their life. So I find, I mean, I'm always talking anyways. And the more you talk to your kids, the more they're going to eventually talk, right? So the more they hear, the more they're going to pick up. And really thinking about kind of the words that you're saying to them and emphasizing those words, right? So if you want them to pay attention to something, there's a way that you can draw attention to it, right? You can put things by your face. That's one thing that I do lots. So if I really want them to look at me or look at my mouth, I put stuff by my face. And then being like, pen. And I'm going to wait and wait and wait and wait. And see if they're going to copy me or if they're going to look, they're looking at me, right? Giving them lots of time to kind of process that. And my 18-month-old, she got 2 new words yesterday, which it's so much fun at this age because it's like a word explosion. But yeah, it was, sister was one of her new words yesterday. That she was yeah, so her sister went to school yesterday and then she was practicing saying sister because I said, oh, your sister's at school. She said sister for the first time. And then when I was putting her down for bed, she's laying there saying sister, sister, sister. And it was the sweetest thing. But it was the first time she ever said it. I say sister. I've been saying that she's your sister since birth, but that was the first time she actually said it. So again, it's like one of those things that's so sweet. And now she's been practicing it all day today. Over and over and over.
Repetition.
Yeah, and she gets some good feedback from me and her sister when she says it, right? So
yeah.
Lots of reinforcement for saying it.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
How can you get that, like, how to reinforce them to keep saying those words that you're not annoying them, but like, say this.
Yeah. So don't say this. That's the trick.
Okay, I'll stop.
A lot of parents don't. You know what? That is like most parents, that's their go-to, right? Because that's like the more obvious way to get them to repeat you. But really doing that emphasizing and waiting is actually like a less pressure way to get them to pay attention and repeat after you. So yeah, drawing attention and then that wait time. And I want to say like 10 seconds, count in your head and try it out and see if they will on their own respond to you in that way by just waiting. Because
I'm gonna try that out tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's the way that you say it too, right? So I'm gonna, if I want you to say something, I'm I don't even know how to explain it. Oh, water.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
You say it like it's the most interesting thing.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, when it's new words and stuff, they are interested, right?
Right.
So they say it kind of the same way that you say it, right? They say it with all that emphasis when they're first saying it, right? So that's really fun. And then when they're getting a little bit older, starting to, you know, put two words together and that, then you're kind of matching their level. So if they are saying one word, you're saying one word to two words. If they're saying two words, you're saying 2 to 3. You're always kind of adding one to wherever they're at, so that you're challenging them to the next step by adding that one word in your model that you want them to copy.
Interesting. Okay, that's cool. I would have never thought of that. I feel like maybe is that something that people do naturally? Because I wouldn't have even considered doing that ever.
What do you think, Sarah? Did you kind of
then you simplify it and then say like just the 2 words, or like, so right now I'm trying to say 2 words to Abby, but then sometimes I do say more, or I just say like the one word. But like, yeah, I don't think about it as much as like, you don't plan it. You're just kind of doing it, I think,
So
because you're kind of mimicking them also. And you're like, I know you can say 2 words.
So if you were like, it's time to take a bath, you'd be like, bath time, or like, bath or something.
Yeah,
you
Gio'll say bath.
Yeah, you can do both. You can say it's time to take a bath time.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's the part that you would expect them to be able to actually say back, is just the bath time. So yeah, we were talking about the bedtime routine, right? That's what you're asking about. Yeah. So I had messaged you saying, yes, I use visuals with my kids for everything. So just little pictures. Even my 18-month-old can look at little pictures that have a picture of like a potty and a sink that's after the potty, right? I don't have a bedtime visual for her, but we have a routine. But yeah, I use visuals. Visuals are great because when kids are, you know, overwhelmed, if they're tired, if they're, you know, nad or overstimulated in any way, it's sometimes hard to get in, right? So I feel like part of my job is like managing behaviors with communication. Because a lot of the times when we're getting bad behaviors, it's because of a miscommunication. So those visuals can be used for, you know, communicating expectations. We have a visual that has like no hitting. If you hit, you get 4 minutes. That's for my older one. She also has what we call like a reset. So she got to make a little visual of, I should have brought them with me. They're sleeping, they're in their rooms. But I have a visual that is like her reset. So if she's feeling really overwhelmed and being just crabby at me, I pull that out and I get her to pick one. And the things that are on there are things like a picture of water, a picture of listening to a song or reading a book or going for a pee, having a snack, that kind of stuff. So when she's like really overwhelmed, I can get into her brain, I can communicate with her. She can choose what she needs in that moment by looking at those pictures and just telling me from that.
Oh, I love that. When did you start that with her?
Oh, really young. I want to say like 18 months to 2 years, around there. Yeah. She's pretty good at like recognizing what she needs now without the visual, but we keep it around anyways, just in case there are times that she does need it, right?
Yeah.
And then like routine things like getting ready in the morning. That was one that we used a lot. So like she knew that she needed to eat, then she needed to, you know, go pee and brush her teeth. She needed to get dressed, right? Those kinds of things. So I don't have to continuously be repeating myself. These are the steps that you need to follow, right? It's like, go look at your picture, see what's next. Right?
Start with
and it gives
one.
them independence. And oh my goodness, we struggled with learning how to wash our hands after peeing for like a year. So now, and then it was like, hey, this visual, go look at your visual. You didn't.
Because it's like, they're done, let's go.
Yeah. And I think that's actually when I made it, was because she wasn't washing her hands.
One track mind.
A reminder. Yeah, she wants to come back and play, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, visuals are definitely good for kind of getting in there when the language system is kind of shut off, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
So then like those would be ways to help initially, just like get you started with language. So then what would you say are the most common challenges with learning language?
Yeah, so this was a really tricky one. So I think that a lot of it comes from parents not knowing like what to expect at different ages. And then yeah. And so kids do understand language earlier than they can tell us what they're understanding, right? So it looks like they understand you. So why aren't they listening, right? Why aren't they doing it, right? So that's hard because parents do get that disconnect between, what they're understanding and what they're showing. And then the kids are getting really frustrated when they know what they want, but they can't say it, right? And so that's tricky too. But I think that the things that we talked about so far that are good bridges to kind of support that language until they can say a little bit more. And really the visuals are good for helping to understand language, right? So there's kind of two streams. One's understanding and one is actually the speaking and putting sentences together and that kind of stuff, vocabulary and all that too. Before they're able to tell you is like show me. I use that a lot. Show me, and I'll give my hand, and she can lead me, or she can point and show me what she needs when she's freaking out, and I have no idea what she wants. But yeah, it's very individual, right? So it depends on the kid. Like my 18-month-old, she bites me right now. It drives me crazy. It's either teething or communicative. It's sometimes one, sometimes the other. And I know sometimes it's because she wants my attention because I'll be, I've been working from home and I'll be at my computer and she'll come and give me a little chomp on the foot. I'm like, you are not a dog. What do you want? You need attention, right? Yeah. So, I mean, she's not telling me, Mommy, come play. Yeah. She's biting me instead, which we don't like.
It hurts. They have sharp teeth.
Oh, and she I think because she's teething, she bites me like extra hard. She's wanting
she likes that.
Yeah.
Pressure.
It's awful. It's awful.
Yeah.
Get her a rawhide.
Working on that. Yeah. You'd think that she would, bite on one of the thousands of teethers that we have laying around.
Right?
No. My foot or my arm, those are her favorites.
I always think about how quickly children grasp language. So when they're, 4 and already speaking full sentences for the most part, they're fully understanding the language that they have. And then you introduce a new language to them. It seems like no time before they're speaking fluent, whatever the other language is, if they have access to it that way. Just speaking personally, I didn't speak English, and then we moved to Canada and I spoke fluent English within maybe a year. And then I think about myself as an adult and I'm like, I could not learn another language and be fluent within a year. I'd have to dedicate so much time to that. So I always wonder, is it their brains are so elastic, obviously, but I'm so jealous. And what do I need to eat? And what are they what is that? That's crazy.
That is the baby brain. Yeah. The baby brain is definitely hardwired to learn language. Yeah. It can pick up, and it's really cool because when you're born, you can actually differentiate the different sounds in every language in the world. And then you actually lose that ability when you're a teenager. Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
So if you want to learn a new language, do it before you're 18, because that's definitely where your ability drops off.
Wow. Well,
I should have paid attention in French class.
The earlier that you're exposed, the better too. So if right from birth, if mom speaks one language and dad speaks another language, that's great. They can definitely go with that, and mom can speak, Swedish to you and dad can speak English, and you're going to get 2 languages at the same time. And it's not going to hurt speech and language development at all, or slow down your language learning. That's the greatest thing to do. And actually multilingual kids are usually when they're older, their brain, like your executive functioning, so you're like problem solving and you're planning, those kinds of skills are actually usually better because you have had to like figure that all out, right? Yeah. And it's really interesting. I don't know, like Allie, how you were like 4 or 5 when you learned
so we moved from Poland when I was almost 5, and then I went straight to kindergarten in Coquitlam. And I remember like struggling all of kindergarten because nobody understood me. So I was like hitting kids over the head with like plate trains because they wouldn't leave me alone and stuff. And then I just remember like the year after I went into grade 1, and it was like I was reading, I had a book club, I had a journal, like I was like and my mom has those journals. So it's like, and my writing and like language seems like any other kid at that age. So
yeah. And you don't have any accent at all. Like that didn't even happen either. That happens sometimes, but mostly when they're older, right? When they're like
like my
7,
older brother, you can hear it a little bit more.
Okay.
But in me, I feel like obviously I don't hear it. Nobody hears it. But when I speak Polish, I have like a little bit more of like an English.
Like an English accent.
Yeah.
It went back the other way. Interesting.
Yeah.
Do your parents have an English accent in Polish too, or has that rubbed off at all on them?
No, like they have very heavy Polish accents when they speak English. Yeah. So they're like, my mom's is a little better. She actually worked as a speech pathologist in Poland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she has like, I guess she just understands language a little bit. So she's been able to kind of like get rid of her accent, and she works as a kindergarten teacher now. So like surrounded by little kids talking to her all day long. And it's funny, like she tells stories where like the kids in her class will go home and then they'll like say a word the way my mom says it, which is like not the right way necessarily. It's kind of like it has a Polish accent on it.
Right.
And then their parents will be like, that's not how you say that word. And they're like, no, that's how Joanna
that's how my teacher says it.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, okay. But they're super cute because they're so innocent that they don't know.
They have no idea.
Yeah. But it's a French immersion school too. So my mom also speaks French. Like, so there's like, just I think the accent has just been kind of like washed over through all the different languages she knows. But my dad like is more sound like Borat a little bit. We tell him all the time that's not news. No.
He can listen.
Yeah. But yeah, it was always interesting to me, like that period of my life. I just remember like not knowing at all how to speak English and being just like frustrated, and then like so quickly the next year remembering that I spoke English fine. So yeah, it happened so fast.
Yeah. And me working in the schools, when we have kids that come in like that don't speak any English, we definitely like we work with them on like language stuff, vocabulary and that, but really we wait because they just need exposure. And the more exposure the better, and they just pick it up so fast. It's so true. The only time that we have issues is if they have like a language delay in their first language. That's when we might see a language delay in English.
So. Oh, that makes sense. What would be like the typical age that you would start to speak as a child?
Okay. Like start to actually say words, like your first word? Is that what you mean?
Maybe like more understanding into, I don't know, short sentences. Like does saying one word here and there count as like, would you count that as speaking like language? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna talk about development for you.
Okay.
So basically at the beginning, like our communication is, looking and smiling and maybe like laughing or cooing, making little sounds, right? And that counts as communication. So right off the bat, they are trying to communicate with us, right? Even just get a reaction to learn that that's how conversation works. That's how
the back and forth.
That back and forth. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and then around, 12 months, that's when we say like your first words would happen. Some kids are a little bit early, they'll say mama at 10 months or whatever. Some kids are a little bit late. But yeah, like a first word would be a word that they're using consistently to talk about a specific thing, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think mama was one of my girls and dada was the other. Like it was very, very specific to who's around them, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then my oldest daughter, her first word was this.
Mine
like,
too.
Oh no, this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
Same.
oh, I must say that lots.
I know, that's why I'm always like, this. Do you want to see this?
Yeah. What's this?
Like, oh, yeah.
But yeah, so first words, there's a variety of them.
They copy you.
They copy you for sure. But yeah, around 1, they have their first words, and then by like 18 months, so the age that my daughter's at, they have it's a big range. So at least 10 words on average, but some have more than 50. And I'm not bragging, but my daughter definitely has more than 50. She's crazy.
She's a chatterbox.
She's a chatterbox. And I mean, she gets new words like every week. She gets new words, right? So
Right.
Even just keeping track at this point is hard to keep track of new words, but it's really fun. I remember even just from when my oldest was around this age that there's like an explosion that happens between 18 months and 2 years where they just get so many new words so quick, and it's so much fun for parents.
Do you find that like if they have an older sibling, they learn a little faster?
Sometimes, and sometimes it actually goes the other way because the older sibling will talk for them. So it really depends on the dynamics between the siblings.
Gotcha. Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. And then, so we have our vocabulary explosion, we call it. And then we start putting like 2 words together around 18 months as well, right?
Okay,
so
cool.
They're starting to say like, mama up or more milk, or like really two functional. Usually it's like something that they really want, 2 functional words together. And then we start to expect them to be able to follow some simple commands like go get your shoes or that kind of stuff, right? And I mean, personality can also impact how much maybe they understand you, they're just not doing it. My oldest was the sweetheart and she would do anything for you. My youngest is a bit of a rebel, so she picks and chooses when she wants to listen. But she knows what I'm saying. So yeah, it's definitely a little bit getting that understanding of the language, and then another part of it's personality and temperament there, for sure. Yeah, and then I want to say by like age 2, they're going to be starting to put 3 words together, and you're going to understand about like half of what they're saying. So half to like 75%. So that means that their speech sounds, the way that they're saying things, is getting clearer. So right now, my 18-month-old, her word for milk is manga. And I know that means milk. Nobody else knows that means milk.
What is manga?
So manga is a combination of hungry and milk.
Oh.
Yeah.
She's just putting them together so she has to say less.
It's just faster. Yeah.
But it's always been her word. So I think that I was saying, are you hungry? And she was picking up on hungry, not like, do you want milk, right? So, and now she's added the because I'm like, no, you need to say milk. You can't say manga. So now she's like, manga. Yeah.
Manga.
So that doesn't count as an intelligible word. We don't no one else understands what she's saying. Her dad still doesn't get that that's what she means when she says manga. I spend more time with her. I know exactly what manga is, but other people would
they can like
know.
look at you a certain way and you'll be like, yeah, that's what that means.
Yeah, exactly.
But other people. Yeah.
So yeah, about 2 to 3 years old, then they're starting to get more of those speech sounds. So we definitely have like there's an order to getting speech sounds as well. So I work in the school system a lot more on those speech sounds. So when I say speech sounds, I mean sounds like the p, the g, the k, the s. Those specific sounds in words that are tricky for kids later on are the ones that I end up usually working with them on when I'm working on speech, which is very different from language. All the stuff we've been talking about up to now has been language, right? So it's been vocabulary and following directions and that kind of stuff. But actual speech sounds, that's when that clarity starts coming in. It's between 2 and 3 years that they're starting to refine their words and actually get those speech sounds in the right order and being able to actually use their mouth to say the sounds properly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So by 2 to 3 years, they should have, there's a lot of sounds. They should have like the p, the b, the d, n, t, k, g, w, ing, like in sing, and like all those sounds. They should be able to say them properly and connect them in simple words.
Wow.
So like lots that they should already have.
That is a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And then as they get a little bit older, so when they're 4, they should get things like their ol sound, which my daughter's name is Lila. And she was Yaya until she was 3. She got it appropriately by the time she was 4, but she was Yaya for a long time.
That's cute.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Abby just learned to say her name and she goes, B. Like, so okay, cute. Like whatever works. Like we finally just got it. So, or it's like B, like whatever. Yeah. She opposite, like, but she's doing it separated, but we got it.
That's cute.
Really, it's so sweet. Like, how can you not love that?
Right? And like, say it again.
Yeah.
Yes. Let me record you this time.
Yeah.
You should just start saying it like that so she continues forever.
She'll be like 15,
always,
like
B.
Yeah. Oh, that's like my 4-year-old.
She would hate me.
She calls a chimney a jimney. And it's the sweetest thing. And I have such a hard time. Like I laugh and then I just like try not to correct it because it's the cutest thing. She doesn't have any other speech errors anymore, but her Jimny, and Santa's gonna come down the Jimny, and oh my goodness.
You're like, we'll let this one slide.
Let this one slide. We can keep that one. We have no other errors.
That's too cute.
Yeah. And I mean, it's cute until it's not. That's something I always tell parents too. It's cute until it's not, right? So if your kid has lots of speech errors, and it's cute until it's not. So
okay, so what would you say?
What's the not?
When
is the not?
So the not can be like even at 2 and 3. So if people are not understanding, or if you're not understanding your own kid, more than 50% of the time, then there's probably something going on, right? That you could use a little bit of extra help with. And then by the time they're like 4 or 5, it's 75 to 90% of what they say you should understand the first time. So you should basically understand almost everything by the time they're 5, right?
Right.
So there shouldn't be a lot of errors left. I do, as a school speech pathologist, see a lot of like that L sound in kindergarten. I see a lot of that. And they should actually have it by 4. There was a brand new study done, and they just published it on with our college, that says that it's now a little bit younger than we used to think. So it used to be one that we left a little bit longer, but like L needs to be caught. S, a lot of kids stick their tongue out between their teeth for S, like so stuff like that. The younger that we catch it, the better, because it's really hard to break those habits. And the R sound is really tricky. And developmentally, they don't all have it before they're 5, but it's when it persists to when they're older, it's really hard to fix it. So those are some sounds that I do hear like a lot. They're very common errors.
How would parents work on those sounds?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would recommend
Like if that's it. Like you hear, like sometimes I'll hear like little children speak, and then you hear some of that and you're like, okay, that like soft R sound, I feel like should go away, but then how long do you wait?
Yeah. And I mean, there's a certain amount that is age appropriate, right? So that's why it's like a developmental, that's why I say by, you know, 4, they should have their O sound, right? It should be pretty solid. They shouldn't be doing a W anymore. It shouldn't be a weef and a wamp. It should be a leaf and a lamp.
But weefs and wamps are so cute.
Again, it's cute until it's not.
I know. I don't know. I feel like wamps and weefs would be cute.
Until you're 7 and you're the only kid who does it in your class. 2 and 3 and then it's fine. But once you're, and like I really like to use like peers as a judge, right? So if you're a first-time parent and you're not sure, first of all, there's resources that you can find. There's it's called the Talk Box, and it's actually like an AHS resource that has kind of a guideline for different ages. So that's a really good parent resource. But peers, so if you have any mom friends who have kids that are the same age as your kid, listen to them and see how your kid sounds compared to other kids, because that'll give you a good idea of whether or not you kind of think you need to see a speech pathologist or not. If you just Google Talk Box Alberta, it'll pop up, and there's lots of resources on there. I know that they have them like at community health when like in the waiting area, they have them there too, but it's definitely an online resource as well that you can access. We work on voice, we work on fluency, so like stuttering. We work on like motor speech disorders. I know there was a comment about apraxia. We work on that. There's lots of different things, but voice volume is definitely something that we work on, and in classrooms we definitely work on voice volume.
The reason I bring that up, I feel like I've just been through like 80 years of a life, but I had a speech pathologist when I was like 17, because I used to like sing in a jazz choir, and I would always get nodes on my vocal cords. And so then after they got really bad, I had to see a speech pathologist to work on volume, because I was told that I had no like mid-range speech. I just had like a whisper or like a yelly voice and nothing in the middle. So then he had to like retrain the middle like range. But I always found that so confusing, because even I think back to that and I'm like, was that a dream? Like, what was I like even doing?
That was real. That was real.
So at 17, like that.
You were abusing your voice. That's what you were doing.
I don't sing anymore.
I never knew you were a singer. I'm going to have to ask you to sing for me sometime. I will be.
Well, in the Christmas episode, I was singing Mariah Carey.
Yeah, and I said it was bad.
See, that's why I don't sing.
said you were off tune.
I think you didn't recognize it. Wasn't that it? You didn't.
Yeah, I didn't recognize it. But
Yeah.
you know what? I have no musical like recognition ability at all. So I can't say anything.
I can't blame her. I was just doing like a run, so. But,
practice, and then that can be on the next episode.
yeah, thank you.
Allie singing.
Now you've got yourself into something, Allie.
No one's gonna listen to that one.
Jazz episode.
Seriously.
You did mention the apraxia. We actually had like on one of our posts on our Instagram and Facebook, we asked people kind of just some questions, and someone had wrote in, my 4-year-old was diagnosed with apraxia. It's been a learning curve I never thought I would go through. So it's been a crazy ride so far. So I've never actually heard of apraxia. So I feel like you could tell me a little bit more about it.
So apraxia, childhood apraxia of speech, it's actually like a really rare motor speech disorder. So basically there's a disconnect between the brain coordinating your mouth and your tongue, and those movements of like those motor movements of your articulators, basically. So articulators are the things that you use to articulate your words. So often they'll have difficulty putting sounds together. So even putting like a consonant with a vowel or a vowel with a consonant, like very simple word shapes like on, no will be tricky for them. Just that planning of putting the ah before that can be tricky for their system. Usually they aren't going to babble. So babbling is like that ba 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 ma 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 ga ga ga. So they're not babbling as infants, and they're talking a little bit later than, well, they're definitely talking later than their peers. But yeah, it's very rare. I did do a quick search to see what the what percentage of children actually have it, and it's less than 1% of children are diagnosed with childhood apraxia of speech. So I have a few that I have on my caseload that I've seen, but it's pretty rare. So what happens when we work with a kid with childhood apraxia of speech? We work on like words specifically, and you have to repeat the words over and over and over to get that motor sequence in place, right? So it's like learning how to play the piano. You have to play them in the right order over and over and over, so that you get that motor sequence in place. So yeah, we work on like those word shapes, and then we work on, making it more complex, right? So working into phrases and stuff. We do a lot of prompting. So there's like some physical prompts that you actually touch their face, or you do prompting with your hands. So you use some other prompts to kind of help them remember where to move their articulators. And then depending on their age, and their severity, like how hard it is to understand them, we do use something called AAC. So it's alternative and augmentative communication devices. So it can just be like on an iPad. And there's apps that you can download that have words in them, like word sets in them, and they use that to communicate in the meantime while they're learning how to actually formulate the words with their mouth. So it's a way that they can actually, so it's way more complex than just the baby sign, right? You can actually make sentences. Usually there's like little pictures with the words underneath, so they'll like
I've seen that app before.
There's lots of different options, but and then they can like push a little button and it'll talk for them. So those are really good for bridging that, especially when it's really frustrating for them to not be able to communicate. We definitely use like an iPad device or a device like that to help them communicate. But yeah, it's a pretty severe, like it's pretty hard to understand them usually off the bat, and it takes some pretty intensive work on like really the sub steps as you go through. Yeah, if they're having a hard time even just doing like ba 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 ba, right? That can be an indicator that they're not able to do that repetitive motor movement, right? Yeah.
I guess like it would never hurt to go see someone, but then
it never hurts to get it checked out, right?
Yeah.
So Yeah, and like you're never gonna, the speech pathologist is never gonna think that you're wasting their time, right? It's better for you to be safe than sorry. Like I don't want parents to like be super worried about their kids or anything, but it is it's an easy thing for us to check and see if they're on track or not, and give some strategies if they're not, and or see them in person if they're not. Yeah. Like my youngest, she didn't babble it as much as my oldest did.
Okay.
And she kind of skipped, like there's different kinds of babbling, and she kind of skipped like the second kind of babbling. So the first one is like ba 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 ba, and the second kind of babbling is like ba ga ma da ba ga ga ba. So they're putting different syllables together, but they're trying to make like words. And she kind of skipped that and didn't do the like chatty little jargony speech where she's just kind of imitating me. I was like, what is she doing? And then all of a sudden she had like words. And she was so like, she wanted her words to be clear, and like she knew what she wanted to say. So she kind of skipped that phase, but then she was saying words like right away after that. So like I wasn't concerned. And I also wanted to say for stuttering, there is developmental stuttering as well, which can occur. And my oldest actually had developmental stuttering right around her second birthday, and it lasted about 2 weeks. And it was just like, all of a sudden she was stuttering. And I was like, what are you doing?
No.
And then it went away. And so stuttering is basically also a disconnect between your brain and your mouth. Okay. And your brain is going so much faster than your mouth that it can't keep up. So she was getting some language around that 2-year mark. She was putting some concepts, she was trying to figure it out in her brain, and it wasn't coming out clearly just yet. And so she did, she stuttered for about 2 weeks.
It makes sense. Like their brain is going a mile a minute. They just can't get it out fast enough. Like when we talk really fast, trying to get it out, trying to get a story out, we start to stutter too.
Yeah.
What was that? A stutter?
Stutter.
Don't make fun of me. No, I'm not. I'm sorry. Like I didn't want to say it, but then we were talking about something and I was like, oh, that's kind of like my dog, but I didn't want to say it. It's like, I don't want to compare a dog to a human because it's not the same.
You can teach dogs language. What are you talking about?
Oh, I know. Because there's that one dog that like hits the button. Like, I don't know if you've
seen yes, I've seen that.
They have like 30 buttons on the floor and each one has like a programmed word, and the dog will go up and like make a sentence.
Hello.
Like, go outside, please. And you're like, oh, okay.
It's amazing.
Yeah. But like with my dog, so my younger dog, it takes her like a second to like do what you've asked her to do. So
she's processing.
Yeah. So my fiance always gets mad because he's like, Willow, sit. And she's like standing there staring at him. And I'm like, just give her a second. Like, she'll sit down. But he's just like, sit down, sit. Like so quickly. And she's just standing there like, I'm trying. Like,
and every time that you say it again, it resets that processing.
Yeah.
Like the say this word. That's what it reminds me of. So like giving them that 10 seconds to process it, then they say it.
Yeah.
And like I hate to compare, but that's like my only comparison.
It's a good comparative though. It really is.
Like, so if anyone listening has just dogs and no human children, similar, same but different. Take your dog to the speech pathologist. Highly recommend it.
I did have another question. You kind of talked about, I think it was for the Apraxia. How did you say that?
Apraxia.
You talked about like iPads and stuff and using them as tools. What about like using them like for speech, like and other technologies, stuff like that for children? Yeah. How does that affect their speech?
Yeah. So the only time that I use iPads with kids is when it's like a communication device. So it's actually something that's helping to support their communication. So it's not a game, it's not like a practice or anything like that. All of the practice that we do is with a person. Screen time is tricky. So there are like recommendations for screen time. I feel like very few people follow them. the recommendations are no screen time under 2 years. So no iPad, no TV, no your cell phone. Under 2 years, 0, right? So I know most parents don't follow that. And I mean,
super hard these days.
Yeah, and especially with parents working from home, like I totally understand needing a break sometimes and, you know, go watch TV while I work, right? And it's easy. But yeah, so screens are really overstimulating. So what I mean by that is that there's noise, there's visual, and usually like whatever's happening is really fast paced and exciting and there's lots of action, right? So for your brain to process all of that, it is actually exhausting. So think about how your body feels after you watch 4 episodes of something on Netflix. Do you feel rested or do you feel exhausted?
Exhausted.
Yeah. I feel like I'm gonna watch 4 more.
It like drains you though. Like if you're binge watching, it just drains you.
Yeah.
So that's what happens to our kids too. It just drains every little thing out of them so that they aren't able to react in the way that would be, you know, normal for them, right? So if my little girl watches a movie, she is snippy with me. She won't listen. She talks back, like so many things. She looks like a tired, grumpy, hungry kid.
Wow.
Right? She just looks like everything. So I try and limit as much as possible as well. I mean, I'm not perfect either. And she's just about 5. And they do say that between 2 and 5, that they can have a maximum of 1 hour a day of screen time with an adult present. So watching a movie with your kid, talking about what's happening, right? We watched some Christmas movies this year. It was super exciting, but she's asking questions the whole time, right? Oh, why is he doing that? What's right? So we're watching them together. So not using an iPad as like quiet time or as like a babysitter, right?
Yeah.
Because it actually can make your kids' behavior worse and they're not learning anything from it. Really, you need another person, right? You know, when they started doing like Dora and she's got her Spanish and people are like, all right, we're going to teach our kids to learn Spanish. Go watch Dora. It's like, no, your kid's not going to learn another language by watching TV. They're just not, right? You need another person to have that interaction in order to learn a language. So what we do a lot in our house is actually listen to audiobooks. So there's a couple of really good ones that my daughter likes to listen to repetitively. And so it's a little bit less stimulating, right? It doesn't have that visual stimulus at all.
Right.
She's just listening to it. She could still be playing or flipping through a book while she's listening. And it gives her that time that I can like be like, hey, I'm going to have a shower. You listen to a story for 10 minutes while I go shower. So I get that break uninterrupted and she's occupied, but it's not as overstimulating as actually interacting with a screen and getting frustrated with a game or, you know, that kind of stuff. So that's what I would suggest instead. And yeah, like overall language development, I mean, if a kid is sitting in front of a screen all day, they're not interacting with you. They're not interacting with their peers. They're not playing. They're not getting that. They're not doing what kids are supposed to do.
Their imagination and creativity.
Everything is impacted. Yeah. And a lot of like games and stuff too are making it so that they don't have any patience. So we're seeing that a lot. Even like kindergarten age kids that are playing video games lots and they want it now and they have no patience.
So the instant gratification.
And I mean,
that's
like
a huge problem.
As adults, we're surrounded by it, right?
It's definitely, I think, something that obviously everyone thinks about speech and language, but I don't, never to this extent, I think, unless it's like something that's really happening in their life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Tips for parents who think their kids are going to make a scene if they don't have a device in front of them: bring a book. So when COVID kind of went away and we could go back to the hairdressers, me and my 4.5-year-old went for haircuts, and we brought it was like I can't remember if it was like Tangled or something. She brought a book. She picked her book that she wanted to bring. And for her, they have these like Cine stories, and they're kind of like graphic novels, but they're based on like, she's got a Frozen one and she's got her Tangled one. But yeah, it's like all pictures, right? So she can flip through that book, and she sat for almost an hour while I got my hair done, and she flipped through that book, and she didn't make a sound, and she was great the whole time.
Wow.
So bringing books, and I mean, right from when she was younger, we would bring other books, right? Like instead of throwing the iPad in the backpack, we'd throw a couple books, right?
Right.
Then you can do that with them, right? You're sitting in the doctor's office, you're sitting on your phone, they're sitting on their iPad. Like, that doesn't make sense. Why don't you sit and communicate with them and interact with them, right?
Right.
So we always bring books to appointments now.
And it's just as easy to throw in.
Yeah.
And you don't have to recharge them.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you say those books, they don't have like words in them? They're just
They
pictures?
They do have words. Yeah. They're like a graphic novel. So the words are like, they're like a comic almost, right?
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
But there's more, it's bigger, like it's a bigger story.
What I pictured was like the movie and like just kind of almost frame by frame, but like in a book.
It kind of is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, those books are kind of like that. And
that's
she
what I
loves
pictured. I'm like, that's interesting. I kind of want one,
cool.
but
you're just reading
exactly
the movie.
Yeah. I'm gonna make my own words. I would prefer one without words. Like, I'm just gonna assume what's happening.
Yeah, like, and that's usually what kids are doing.
Yeah. It's like my favorite thing in the world is to hear them like fake read.
I know. Yeah. It's so cute.
Yeah. I don't have any more questions. Sarah, do you?
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Is there anything else that, Andy, you feel like would be just this information we can't leave without? I feel like, honestly, you covered so much that
I think we covered so much. Yeah.
So much.
I feel like everything that I wanted to share, I think I did. So
maybe anything you want to like reinform, like where to go if you have questions, what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. So if you are thinking that you want to access a preschool speech and language pathologist, so all you have to do is call, it's like the AHS, like the hospital. So call and go to community health and then ask for a speech language pathologist. So it's really easy. You can self-refer. You don't need to talk to your doctor or anything. You just call and make an appointment. And if your kids are school age, then you can just talk to their teacher, and their teacher can make a referral, and it'll come to me or to the other SLP that works in the schools as well in Edson.
That's really cool that they make it so accessible. Like, you can just refer yourself.
Yeah.
Awesome. It really is.
It makes it
really, it opens it up for just like, I'm kind of concerned, but like it could be nothing, it could be something.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool.
And better safe than sorry, right?
Right.
If you never have to go back again, great, right?
Yeah.
At least you made sure, right? You made sure there wasn't anything else that you could do to help support your kid. And now that I am a parent, I understand where parents are coming from when they're like, I wish I had known sooner. I would have done it differently, right? My daughter wears glasses. And I'm like, I wish that we had, she goes to the stollery. I'm like, if I had known that she needed to do that younger, it would have been so much better to start off younger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, the younger the better. If you have concerns, for sure, reach out. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was really
good.
Informative. Yeah. It was.
I'm gonna go like reflect now and just be like, I know everything.
She's going to go become a speech and language pathologist now.
Do it.
In her spare time, she's just going to be doing courses.
No, I have too many speech and language problems. It would be like, I would use it as like my own personal like self-help. It'd be like, I'm doing this because I need this.
I feel like I also did it because I knew I was going to have kids one day. And I'm like really good at language with my kids.
I've heard your older daughter speak, and she is very good at speaking.
Impressive, yeah.
She is, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andy.
Yes, thank you.
We'll include your information in our write-up, so then people know who you are, and then they can recognize your name. And also, I'll include some of the ways that they can access help through AHS as well.
Sure. I'll send you a link for that talk box,
Awesome.
and just maybe another resource just about like development.
I was going to ask too if you could take a picture of your girls' charts for an example.
Oh yeah,
and we could share that. Would be really cool.
Yeah, no worries. That's
cool.
Easy.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much.